Good morning and welcome to Inspiring Courage podcast. We have the lovely Tony with us here. Thank you for being my guest today, Tony.
My pleasure, Vafa.
It's so lovely to have you here. You have almost kept me sane during lockdown. I have to tell everybody where I know you're from. You've been my accountability buddy for about 18 months now, and you're Mr. Do It, aren't you? You're Mr. Implementer. And if I'm ever in doubt and if I'm ever feeling a little bit low, I just need to call you and you keep me focused. So thank you for that. That's our history back together. And you are also Mr. Network in my mind. So I thought today you were going to give us a few nuggets of wisdom on how to network in person. But from our conversation, I understand there's something more relevant that you want to discuss with us today as we sit here going through a period of recovery from a global pandemic. There are many people who are facing redundancy, and that's something that you've experienced. And I'd be delighted if you would share your experience with us, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problems at all. It's all about resilience. My story starts back when I was 48, and I was, well, actually, it wasn't me. It was my position was made redundant, but of course, it is me that was actually the person on the end of it. And I really had no idea what to do. The day it happened, I had a real mixture of emotions. Anger, I was angry at the world, angry at everybody. It was everyone's fault. It wasn't mine. I'd done as much as I could do. Then there was worry, how was I going to pay the mortgage, the stress and all that. Mm-hmm. And really, I went through probably 2 or 3 days of not really knowing what to do. But I allowed myself to have that pity party. I gave myself permission to actually get it out of my system and then try and move forwards, which is exactly what I did. I realized that it was a set of circumstances which were totally beyond my control. Therefore, it wasn't my fault or anyone's fault, but it was my responsibility now to go out and actually find myself a job. Now, at 48, there is no ageism in this country. Unfortunately, yes, there is. And I was faced with that potential fact that at nearing 50, would I actually find myself an employed position? But how did I find it? What was it like? What was the big bad world doing? I hadn't been made redundant or out of work for 20 plus years. And back in those days, you kind of met with a boss, had a drink, and if he liked you, you started on the Monday. Very, very civilized version of. But now it's jumping through hoops. But it had even moved on from there. Actually, the job boards and the job recruiters and the headhunters and all that, really, they weren't the actual solution. What I found is that I had to work really hard at changing my attitude towards things. I was starting to think, well, the world's got it in for me. But I found an executive job club, and I think if anyone out there is in a management role or executive, try and find a local executive job clubs. They are charities, so there's no fees involved. But what they will do is they will teach you how to job hunt in today's market. And today's market is very, very different. Astonishing facts like 70% of all adverts you see for jobs aren't real. They're no longer there. They may never been there in the first place. It was an internal promotion that they had to put the job online to jump through some hoops. Okay, so what do? We can't rely on dropping the CV through letterboxes and all that. It just isn't the way people do things. 2 main things: networking, which obviously Vafa mentioned earlier, and also LinkedIn, which are 2 very large parts of my life and have been since 48. I am now 60, but the story is like a 10-year story. I went from being in that desperately dark place back at the age of 48 to launching my own company 10 years later at 58. How did I do that? And how can you do that? It is getting a network of people. You can't do it on your own. You need support. And as Vafa said earlier, accountability buddy, it acts both ways. She's also, accountability buddy to me. She kicks my ass as well. And that's what you need. You basically need that network because you're not going to find it on your own. So networking is immensely important, but it's about building relationships. Okay, so it takes time. 3 to 6 months is not unusual for people to start know, like, and trusting you. So I started networking, and I had nothing to give. I wasn't trying to sell anything, which is great because you shouldn't be selling when you're networking anyway. But what I did have was I started to build connections. So I would use that, bartering my connections to get into events, etc. And it just snowballed. And because I was always in the giving mode, never trying to receive, I got told about more and more networking events, and I went to more and more networking events, and I got built more and more connections to the point where I actually got a job through doing it. Okay, so it does work. Also
About being
massively.
known and liked, isn't it? It's about kind of, as you say, for me, the most important thing that you said there was you weren't there as somebody who was selling something. So when you actually find what your values are, what your purpose is, what you're selling, when you network, you're relying on those networks to be your messenger almost, aren't you? You're not selling to them. So that's something that I see often, even on online networking now, that people give me a call almost immediately to sell me their service, and that turns me off immediately. So sorry, just to interrupt you, that was really important. I wanted to highlight it.
No, it is all about building relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, yeah, I was selling something. I was selling myself. I was looking for work, so that was the product.
Mm-hmm.
In business, you don't go networking to have a nice cup of coffee and a chat. If you're doing that, you're doing it wrong. Okay, but that is also part of building relationships. So be strategic when you go networking. But LinkedIn is also vitally important. You can't you cannot go out networking day in, day out, every day. As Vafa will tell you, you get worn out and you get
You need
burnout on
time
that
to
as well.
re-energize, don't you?
You need
Because
to
you
feel
give so much of yourself when you're networking, when you're fully present for people, because that's the whole point again, to be fully present when you're in a conversation, to give them all your attention, to really listen to them. It takes an awful lot of processing power in the background and a lot of energy, doesn't it?
yeah, and I term it active listening. So when I'm
Mm-hmm.
out networking, I'm listening. I'm not just paying lip service by pretending
No.
I'm nodding every now and again. Yeah, I'm listening to what you're saying. Why don't you shut up so I can talk? Which a lot of people do.
Okay.
I'm listening, and I'm listening for cues. And what I'm looking for is how I can help that person. That's my main aim. And by helping people, you bring in the rules of reciprocity. It is get known for someone who's continually giving and continually helping. And guess what? People want to do it back to you. And that is the way to build relationships. But you can't do it all the time. It does take a lot out of you. So I then move people onto LinkedIn, and then I do the networking on LinkedIn as well, back up. Massively important product. It's the whole basis of my business nowadays. Just
It's a
do
really
LinkedIn.
great platform, isn't it, to kind of showcase your talents and who you are, and again build networks. We weren't going to talk about networking, Tony, but you've given us tons of nuggets of wisdom here, haven't you? We started talking about building a resilient mindset and how to go about finding your new vocation, especially this time of life that we find ourselves in, when a lot of people are facing redundancies. So that's been really a great session. Thank you. You've given us lots of nuggets, both on how to go and put yourself out there. And also, I think, something important that we discussed before was when you are trying to redefine who you are, when you're trying to find what you can do. You were telling me you did a lot of personal development also. That was quite an important factor in your life also, wasn't it? And also finding out what skills you had, doing an audit of your skills and strengths and see what's missing, and not being afraid of going in search of them. And as you said, personal development for you played a great role in that. Thank you so much for giving us so much. You've told us
No
about
problems at all.
how to build that resilient mindset when you've been made redundant. It's okay to feel the feelings. It's okay to feel angry for a while, but take responsibility, take ownership of the situation, and go
Yeah.
and find your next task, because you never know, you might, something much better might be around the corner for you. So it's having that mindset to go and look for it. That's going to make all the difference, I think, isn't it?
Just stay visible.
Just
That's
stay
all I can
visible.
say. Just stay visible.
Thank you so much. And I hope to catch up with you very soon again.
I'm sure we will.
Cheers.